evening. Let me tell you, children, it's Friday. And you know what that means? It's time for the Dapper Baboon Show. Thank you for joining us. I am your host, Bo Henry, and with me as always is the one, the only, David K. So, David, how are you this evening?
Pretty good, dude. I've had a long week. Feeling good, feeling strong, feeling happy. What about you, sir?
Well, I'm doing amazing, man. It's been a good week. I'd say. It's been a hot one. It's so hot. I don't want to move. It's so hot outside.
I want to know what your week was like. What did you do? Start with Monday at 8 a.m.
Damn, dude, you want to just go right into it? Monday at 8 a.m.?
Yeah.
Yeah, Monday at 8 a.m. I probably woke up in the middle of the night, probably had a boner, probably had to piss, one of those things. I don't know what I did Monday at 8 a.m.
That was like Sunday at 3:45, not Monday at 8 a.m. What time is the alarm set on your phone?
I usually have it set like at 7:30. It just depends.
Okay.
If I have to go to work later in the day, I sleep in like most Americans do.
Nobody does that. Listen, what is your routine? When you wake up and you have to go to work, set it at 7:30. What time are you supposed to be at work?
9.
7:30 to 9. So what is the process from 7:30 to 9 p.m. or a.m.? Excuse me.
7:30. I get up. I smoke a cigarette.
Outside or inside?
It depends. Usually inside.
Okay.
I let the dogs out, and
How many?
I have 2 dogs. Well, my roommate has a dog. Sometimes I let him out too. Let his dog out too. But yeah, this is not interesting. Why do you want to hear about my day and day?
It is interesting because it is very important, people's daily process, the things that they do, the way that they start their morning, the way that they, attack their day, the things. I'm just curious. I want to know your process. After you let the dogs out, you smoke a cigarette, you let the dogs out, do you have breakfast?
I poop, I shower. Sometimes I have breakfast. Normally, if I'm doing like intermittent fasting, I don't eat until about noon. So.
Okay, do you shit first or do you shower first?
Well, what do you think I am, a fucking animal? No, I shit first.
How long do your shit typically take? Are you there for 3 to 4 minutes? Is it runny? Do you have thick clay-like poop?
I don't know. It depends on how interesting Facebook is, I guess. I kind of get caught up on my phone while I'm shitting, scroll through a little bit of Facebook.
You can create hemorrhoids by sitting on the toilet too long because it's putting a lot of extra undue pressure on your anus.
That is a possibility. I mean, but you know what? I push through it. If I got hemorrhoids, I just push through it. In fact, I pop them sometimes. Actually, I don't. You know what? I don't get hemorrhoids, but I get these weird. I get these weird, like, blood blisters. Like, they're weird. They're almost like pimples, but if you fuck with them, they get, like, really big. And if you pop them, like, dark red blood comes out of them. Is that normal? They're not on my ass, but, like,
they're not on your anus? Where do you get them?
Like upper thighs, maybe, sometimes. Maybe from my thighs rubbing together.
Possibly. Is it ingrown hairs?
I've read up on it, though. Like, it could be. I've read up on it. It's like, it's some type of, it's common, though. It's like some type of staph. This is weird. I posted the link. I thought I posted the link. I got people saying, like, hey, are you having a show tonight? Are you going to post the link? And
damn.
I guess I didn't.
Post the fucking link. Okay, so now during this, what do you typically eat for breakfast if you're not fasting? Is it something light? Do you get, a protein thing? Is it eggs? Is it a breakfast kind of food?
Well, I will usually. I don't know. Sometimes there for a while, I was like having like I was making myself like some protein shakes with some kale in it and stuff. It kind of depends. Like, it depends
did
on
you buy the kale from like a Whole Foods store? Did you buy the kale from Kroger? What kind of kale did you procure?
Usually from Kroger. There's no Whole Foods that are like near me. So
okay,
like
there for a while you were doing that. Then what did you turn to?
Well, I'm typically for breakfast. I'm like an eggs and bacon type of guy.
Do you make them yourself, or do you get them on a sandwich at a gas station or a place?
No, I'll usually make them myself, but like sometimes, like Wendy's breakfast is pretty fire. I don't know if you've had it.
I've dabbled.
I think that Wendy's like waited for a real long time like to have breakfast. I feel like there was a guy in every Wendy's board meeting that would like make the point that they should have breakfast. Like, we need to have breakfast at Wendy's, and like they probably like told him to shut up a whole bunch of times. Like, no, we can't figure out how to cook a square egg. And then one day that guy got fired, and then the guy who's the chairman of the board said, "Hey, you know what? We should have breakfast," and like acted like it was his idea. And then now they have breakfast. That's the way these things work.
Yeah, that is how breakfast. So you're typically stopping at Wendy's to get breakfast before work.
Typically stopping at Wendy's. No, I've had Wendy's maybe 3 times since they've started having breakfast.
So from Monday to today, what was your breakfast like? I mean, was it Wendy's style? Did you make your own this week? What did you do?
This morning I had Wendy's.
Okay. So, now do you get your clothes ready the night before you go to work, or do you have them like hung up in a closet? Do you have them folded in drawers? Do you plan it out? Do you know what you're going to wear, or you don't?
No, I have all my clothes hung up, and I just grab them, or like if I got a pair of pants that are... See, I have a lot more shirts than I have pants. So like I have like 3 pairs of pants that I might wear, something like that. So like if I wore a pair of like dress pants and they're still in pretty decent shape, I just grab a pair like that. Or like I have a pair of pants that I like right now that are my favorite pants, so I like wear those more often. I have like favorite lucky pants.
Okay. Now these are the pants. Now on your drive to work, are you listening to music, or are you going through any kind of self-reflection, like planning for your shit? What are you doing?
No, I used to actually listen to some music or something, or a podcast or something like that along the way. But I had a problem with my car. See, so like check this out. So I went to the car wash to get my car washed, right? Because I wanted my car to look fresh. And I was driving home, and I got about a block, and my car out of nowhere completely quit. Like, didn't even make sense why it quit. It just stopped working, and like wouldn't even like if I turned the key, it just it would it would turn over, but it wouldn't even act like it was starting or anything, right? So the starter would turn, but like it obviously like something was wrong. So, conventional wisdom saying like, well, there's something wrong. It's not getting fuel. It's not getting a spark or anything like that. Okay. So eventually what I figured out, so none of the stuff made sense, like why it would start and just completely stop like that. It should like at least try to go. Right. So what we did is like, I started checking fuses, and I opened a fuse box and noticed there was a little bit of moisture in there. And there was like a couple fuses that were pushed in but weren't pushed in all the way. And I noticed there was weird wires running to them. See, the person who owned a car before me like had a system in the back. So like he connected these wires to these fuses, and like I figured that these wires didn't matter because there was no longer a system in the back. So I took those out, and I seen that one of the fuses was popped. So I replaced the fuse and took those wires out. But what I failed to realize is that one of those wires was actually running and powering the radio. So, like, I haven't gone back in and put the thing, like, figured out which wire it is to get the radio working again. And I've just been chilling without any radio, and it hadn't really bothered me any. So I just drive without listening to anything. But the thing
so
is,
then you're doing self-reflection now, right? So what are you thinking about on your drive to work?
I don't know. I don't be thinking about stuff. Like, I might call somebody. I might text while I'm driving.
You don't know. So you don't think of anything like before. So for instance, you're a salesman at a dealership. So you're not thinking like, okay, these are the things that I need to do today to be the most successful at selling the most cars.
No, why would I do that? I just get in there and kick ass, and that's what I do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So there's routines. There are things that that you build upon yourself as you do things, especially now since there's you're void of any distraction by the radio or something like that, where you can reflect on, what your goal for the day is, or, are you on the goal or on the path or doing the things that you're doing, to make the next day that day or the next week that day, or, trying to find those things. Like if you're just sitting there just blank and you're not thinking of anything at all or can't even recall something that you would be thinking on your drive to work, I feel like that's an important part of routine of sort of putting together for yourself as you go about your business and your life. Like now, once you get to work,
I almost feel like that's an important part of my routine. An important part of my routine in the day is to drive to work, blank out, and not think about anything, so that when I get to work, I don't actually shiv somebody or take my own life in the bathroom.
So you dislike it that much?
No, I'm just saying, you got to deal with people. So that's what you be doing.
I mean, dealing with people is fun. That's what makes your stuff successful. You have to love those people and want those people to be there and be everything that they need you to be. So if you're just fighting the urge to hurt them or hurt yourself, I feel like that's a thing to add into your daily routine. Does that make sense?
Okay, I feel like you're trying to do some type of self-help here thing that is come on. Okay, so have you been listening to I don't know, Gary Vee or something, or somebody else who's been motivating you to get into a routine? I
mean, there's a lot of different things that I'm reading and watching and listening to. Andy Frisella is one. He's a self-made man who's made himself a lot of money and who's very down to earth and sort of realistic about approaches and things like that. There's this thing called Max Out Your Life. I can't remember the name of the author right now, but they sort of go into discussions like that. I mean, if you can't describe to me your day and what the things that you do, how are you going to turn that into anything? I think that these successful people spend a lot of time, really focusing on the goals and strategies, of their life, the things that they need to do to be the most successful, and it works. And I'm interested in that. I've been switching my perspective a lot because a lot of the time, a huge majority of my life I've been the worker. Kind of the worker bee, the guy that did all the things and stuff like that, with never, always with people looking at me as the subordinate, the person who has, and I've, recently gotten to a position where I'm the superior, I'm the boss of everything. So when I go in there, these, all of these different people that are looking to, have some sort of business with me, truck repair places and, just different businesses that are next to me that offer something for a wrap or some sort of supply I may need, or 20 different gentlemen that have all different kinds of needs and sort of tires, all of these things that you have to negotiate. And then on top of that, all like customers as well, new customers that need to find out what the process is, current customers that, are trying to get these things resolved and get things taken care of, and future customers that are, looking for some sort of service like this eventually. So, and they're all looking at me like that. You're the boss. You're the superior. You make these decisions. Can we do this? Can we do this? And it's like I feel like you can only grow or grow something as far as you've grown. So if you're sitting there and you still feel like the worker bee, the person that these none of those people, or the people that are maybe grown past that point where they've had these type of jobs before and they're sort of, they've had to go down and do something else. Once they get to, you have to go beyond that. You have to grow and understand that you are the superior, the top dog. You're the person that needs to guide these people and do this, and you can't have these issues. You can't be tired. You can't be, angry and unmotivated and, unsure of yourself. You have to be on. You have to know exactly the steps to take. You have to be there for any kind of questions and things that they need. And, if you're not capable of doing that and staying at that level of sort of like internal RPMs, it would be very, very difficult for someone. So, in developing these habits, especially in the morning and the evening and things like that, that keep you sort of, at least in, you may not be very good at it yet, but the more, anything that you practice, you get good at. So you continually do these practices, and then you start to get very, very good at, controlling your emotions about things, staying focused on the task that you need to complete, balancing sort of all of these things, and it starts with these routines. So that's why I was just curious about your routines. Maybe we have callers who have routines themselves that could be in sort of positions of any sort of position that they're in if they have something that they do. I'm very curious to hear about people's routine. And if I can find anything that I think would be, helpful in a routine, I would like to share it with you, with our callers, with anybody, because it's helping me, and I'm kind of proof of it that it does work. It's not corny, silly shit that you should ignore. If you actually put it into place, you're going to be a bad motherfucker. You feel me?
I feel you, bro. So, yeah, that's the stuff. So there's definitely an importance in having a routine. Or at least setting goals that you're going to be doing and making sure it's not necessarily setting goals. Anybody can set goals. It's having a plan of action and having a timeline of results of where you want results to be. That's the important part. A lot of people like to make plans. A lot of people like to have meetings, and a lot of people like to strategize. What a lot of people don't like to do is track results and have an expectation for what their plan does. Now, the important part about having an expectation for the plan is not necessarily that you hit the plan, but it's just that when you're tracking how things are going, you can see why you didn't hit the results that you expected, and then you can put a plan in to see how you could do it different, or you can then adjust accordingly to what is something more realistic.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about that too, because, projecting budgets and different things like that, you have to stay realistic, but you also need to push to make it better than before. Because if you plan it out, I guess if you're dead balls accurate, that's okay too. But I don't think you ever want to be less than what you set a goal to be, because I think there's something kind of not damaging really, but there's something that's less successful about you want to have goals that you can attain that are realistic, and then they're not too low, and then you have to know where those boundaries are. I think it just takes time. You know what I mean?
No, I hear you. So yeah, hey, I got some exciting news for you.
You're pregnant.
No, I got to see my kids for the first time in 2 years.
What? How? What'd you do? Was it like a thing?
Yeah, it was a thing. Like, the court had put in the order that I'm supposed to meet with the kids and have visitations and supervised visitations for the time being because it's been so long. And we're also supposed to have family counseling between us and kind of just to work through some issues because I haven't seen them in 2 years. So there's a lot of things going on there. So unfortunately, the visitations can't really happen because the visitation center is closed due to the coronavirus thing, and they don't know when they're going to open. So my lawyer was basically like, "Look, you got to start getting these counseling things started. The court wants them like at least once a week." And so we did, and I had to sit there, and my soon-to-be ex-wife showed up with the kids, and it was really awkward there for a minute before we went back in. And then we went back in with the counselor, and I mean, that was awkward for about the first 15 minutes. The kids didn't really want to talk or anything, and I don't think the counselor really was vetted very well about the situation because I think she just kind of thought it was just a normal thing. So I just kind of just started talking to him, saying, look, hey, I know it's been a long time, and I just want you to know that's not my intention. That I love you, I care about you. I've never stopped loving you and caring about you. I've been trying to see you guys and this and that. I also brought them pretty sweet gifts, and so they seem to be pretty excited about that. And then eventually, they kind of started opening up and talking, and yeah, so it was really cool. I mean, by the end of it, I felt like at least we had some useful dialogue, and so hopefully things, start getting a little bit normal and better from here. So it was a little bit bittersweet though, because like on one hand it's like I'm excited because I haven't got to see my kids in a while, but then it's also like, the relationship's not what it used to be, obviously, and so it wasn't like it was like, this like Little House on the Prairie run into each other moment in fucking slow motion. It was just kind of like, working through a process now. One of the things that was weird though is that like, after they kind of opened up a little bit, they were like, my son told me, said that, he said that he doesn't want to like, for me to like take them away from where their living situation now, like basically doesn't want me to take them away from their mom, and he's worried about that. And I'm like, I had to like reassure him. I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to do here. And it just made me wonder. It's like where are you getting this idea from? Like I could give you a couple guesses of where I think it probably came from. I give you one guess and you'd probably be right if you chose it.
Right. Yeah, that's I don't know. I've never had to really go through a process like that. I can't really like relate to what thing, what that process would be. Essentially, I guess my routine to sort of deal with that. It'd be stressful as shit to me.
Mhm.
Is it stressful to you, or have you learned how to sort of integrate it into what you're doing?
Well, it's just kind of part of reality now. I mean, it's really kind of, You know, I try to, I need to take some responsibility for it. You know, I kind of let it happen. You know, like looking back
Right.
now, I should have known things were going to get to the point that they were going to get. You know, I knew that the person I was dealing with was capable of basically having no empathy for anybody else's situation. So, so yeah, and that was the thing. You know, that was the thing that bothered me a lot in my relationship in the first place, was that it just seemed like there was like really no empathy on the person who I was married to's part. You know, there would be it was like it was an act always. You know, and so it didn't matter what my feelings were on a situation or whatever, because they're, at the end of the day, the person I'm trying to be a partner with has no empathy for what my feelings are in the situation in the first place. She could care less. So, so I should have known that it was possible, right? I should have known what was coming, and I should have known that if I had put this person in a position that they wouldn't have power over a situation, that they would make sure I had no power over a situation. So that was the big struggle for me, because one of the big reasons why I wanted to get a separation and to change everything is because I wanted to have personal free time with my kids, to where I could have them for a week or a weekend, and that we could go do fun stuff, and we could be free to do that. You know, when I was married, I wasn't able to do that. As shocking as that may sound, unless she was involved with it, I couldn't take my kids to go do, go do a fun activity for a weekend or for an evening somewhere. You know, go camping or something. You know, like
Why?
everything was controlled, because that's the way it was. It was a control thing. You know, or I'd be told like, oh well, you don't do a good job of watching them. You know, and there would be all these reasons why, supposedly. They were all dumb reasons. You know, it would be like, oh, remember when he was 4 and we were at the pool, and, you know, he went underwater for a second, and like, yeah, I grabbed him and pulled him back under and stuff. Well, that was because you wasn't watching him. You know, that just goes to prove it. And it's like,
You grabbed
okay,
him and pulled him back under when he got out?
No, I pulled him up.
You said I grabbed him,
I
pulled him back under.
No, well, that's all.
Yeah, he had gotten out, so I yanked him back down by his ankles. And...
Right. He's got to learn the hard way. He's got to learn the way I learned, the way my father taught me. But no, so I mean, it was a struggle, and then I should have known when I started to push back, that it was going to get to the point to where it is, and it's all deeply, it's becoming more and more prevalent. But luckily, I think the court systems have gotten a little more wise to it lately. So the good thing is that I've explained my whole situation. I've tried to be as humble about it as possible. Granted, it's been 2 years. If there wasn't some procrastination on my part, it'd probably be 1.5 years. So I'll take some responsibility for some procrastination there on my part. But I think that at least now the court has at least been sympathetic to the things that I've been claiming, and they at least have threatened, and they see kind of what's going on. So they have threatened her and her lawyer, saying, hey, if you get in the way of any of this and stuff, that it's going to really affect, the outcome of what's decided. And so yeah, they we had a report, a guardian ad litem, which is a person who is who's in charge of. They're in charge of. They basically are the lawyer for the kids, so they're impartial, and their decision based upon what they look into, it weighs really heavily on the court. And basically, the guardian ad litem basically came out and said that she suspects parental alienation on the part of on the mother's part, but cannot come out and just say it because I guess parental alienation, if it's proven, is a very serious crime. So there it's at least been stated that that's a good possibility of what's going on. So
you're the leader of an alien nation?
Yep, pretty much. I'm the leader of an alien nation that has no routine, and
Now, does that make you motivated to create a routine, or does that make you resentful of me for pointing it out?
What, for creating a routine? I mean, we all have routines dependent upon. That's the whole thing that I don't like about the whole thing is that it's like we all have routines that we, whether we know or don't know it. Basically, what you're saying is creating a new routine to where your mind and everything is going to be super focused on your career goals and spending more of your mental energy towards that. We all have mental energy your mind never stops working. I mean, as far as me sitting there saying that, like, I'm driving to work and I'm zoning out and stuff, isn't necessarily the case. I'm thinking about all types of stuff. There's all types of things that are running back and forth in my brain and stuff. I just may not be focused on at that point what some would consider to be the most important thing for you to be focused on, and that's your career, right? But here's the thing. People who are so super focused on their career and what they're getting out of it and stuff like that, I mean, those people are sacrificing other things that their brain power could be being used for. And it's anybody's guess whether that's more important or not. But that's kind of an abstract way of looking at it.
Yeah, I could be the inventor of a new type of glue, except I'm doing something else.
Well, it all depends on what you consider productive and what you don't consider productive. So what you're saying is that this type of routine is going to be productive for you to be successful. And the question is whether or not being successful in that way, and whether or not that's what's really important. Living in a capitalist society or whatever, where we highly value those types of things, then yeah. But if you're an abstract thinker, say if you were fucking Socrates, right?
If I was fucking him?
No, if you were Socrates, then like really that time where you're sitting there thinking about abstract concepts that are not necessarily really going anywhere. It's not really a, you're just thinking these abstract concepts and stuff, then that would be a profitable venture for you because that's what you do. And that's what you set yourself out to do. I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, did he make money doing it? Did he make money doing it? I feel like Socrates was probably like eating ants off a stick and shit, just broke, like, damn.
No, Socrates, like, got paid a lot of money to be, like, or am I thinking Aristotle? One of them was rich. But, I mean, but he make money off of it, and that's what I'm saying is like, is it a marketable skill? And that's like basically that's our rubric, right? Whether or not something is worthwhile of your time is whether or not it's marketable and you can make money off of. And I say that as being a salesman. But there really is there's the void in our system, really, in this capitalist system. There's really devoid kind of this need for artistic expression and thought. There really is not really a market for it. In fact, I even watched a video the other day, as a Jordan Peterson video, where he's talking about there are a lot of people who are artists and stuff that really bemoan and really devalue the idea of marketing and advertising and salesmanship. But the fact of the matter is that if you are an artist, the chances of you being successful monetarily are very slim. And in fact, you may want to learn the skills of marketing, salesmanship, advertising, and things like that because it would be valuable to you as far as making money. And that just happens to be the type of society that we live in. And that's the truth of the matter. But thinking abstractly and stuff, it may be kind of also a little sad. That also might be a little sad that, like, we don't value those types of things as much.
I guess then that would take research to go. You have to find a culture or a place that does value that. If it's not here. So I mean, if you went somewhere else like India or some strange place or like a thing where the currency was different, and you started to make these pieces of art and use your skills, over here for marketing and advertising, and sort of like brought that to a new place where they were interested in that, you could gain some sort of footing and traction over there where these people were super interested in your artwork and thought it was a really great thing. And then you could transition it to the American market, because now it'll be way cooler and more, unique and more, elusive to get, because this cool artist from Mongolia was, has these really dope paintings that everybody buys. And now all of a sudden your paintings and your drawings are going for fucking $10,000 a piece or something, just because,
Well, and it's not even that. It's like I'm not even thinking on that level. I'm not even thinking about. I mean, it's really a cold concept to think about. It's really a hard thing to really think through. It's like there should be, like, the people who make our lives better, and it's. The entertainment industry is, of course, a multi-billion-dollar industry. And the people in the entertainment industry do make our lives better. And we throw a lot of cash and throw a lot of money at people in the entertainment industry. But it's also driven a lot by advertising and things like that. So, I mean, it's not necessarily the best product that's making the most money is not necessarily the most artistically powerful. And it's one of those things. And so, I mean, like, Chappelle kind of said it in one of his specials when he's talking about, Colin Kaepernick. And he's talking about the fact that when he made the stand that he made, he didn't have to do it, and nobody even, if the media hadn't covered it or even asked it, nobody would even thought he was doing anything. Nobody even thought anything about it except, one media outlet asked him about it because they noticed it, but he didn't say anything. He didn't make a big deal about it until they asked him about it. And then he said the reason why, and he said, the reason why he did it, and this is why, is because I'm standing up to the oppression of, and I'm paraphrasing, for the police brutality of black folks in this country, and that's probably not exactly what he said, but something along those lines. And you know what? And it cost him his livelihood. And I'm not saying he didn't make money otherwise or he didn't have enough money or anything like that, but he didn't have to do that. And, and Dave Chappelle made a good point, is that we should pay those people. The people who make our lives better, in some way, shape, or form, we should pay those people. But the problem is that there has to be some type of publicity about it, or else we don't know about it. So even that is a marketing ploy. It's a fucked up web, Like your local artist that's, down the street might be the best artist in the world, but if he's not good at advertising, we'd never know about it. It's still, even at the end of the day, it's a fucked up game of who you know or how you can get your name out there to people.
I mean, it is. You got to find, sometimes there's a deck of cards and you may be the ace, but, the king does certain things, the queen does certain things. Like, you have to I think you have to have those pieces in place once you want to take it to another level. Because there are very few people that are good at everything. And even the people you see that are extremely successful still have a bunch of really hardworking, talented people ensuring their success, because they believe in that successful person and they want, more success to happen for them and more success, as everybody gets successful that works together and kind of makes it happen.
Right. No, I think, I watched a TED Talk that was really good, and the guy was talking about, these, helping out these government organizations who are trying to stamp out hunger in Africa and do all these things, and then he tells a colorful story. I wish I could remember the guy's name so I can give him credit, but this is definitely not my own thing. But he talks about how, this organization went over and they wanted to show the people in, I think it was Kenya or something like that. They wanted to teach them farming techniques, right? And they went in with all the good intentions in the world, and and they said they were trying to teach them agriculture, and they were growing these zucchinis, and regular zucchini grows the size of this, but in Africa it just was amazingly, everything grew so great, it was like in no time, and said after a little while after these plants and fruits started growing, they were thinking they were doing a good thing teaching these people how to farm and all this. And of course, they were paying the people to farm their own land, and they were taking the money and stuff, and they were saying, okay, boss, and doing all this stuff. And then they said about, after the fruit got to a certain size, a herd of hippos came, from the river and just demolished and ate everything. And they were like, oh my God, these hippos are so horrible. And it's like, the people tried to tell them. But they didn't listen. This is why we have no agriculture here, And the whole idea about it is that he's talking about, any successful venture, needs to have a team. You need to have somebody who's really good with money. You need to have somebody who is really good at ideas, and you need to have somebody who's really good at executing those ideas. You need to have those three things. And the thing is that what they found out is that there's typically nobody out there who's good at all of the three of those things. So what they did was they started putting these people together who matched these different personality profiles, so that way they could actually grow a successful business and corporation together. And that's kind of where I was going with that, is that there's all these things where people say, oh, well, you have to be successful and these things, but to be successful it requires skills that you don't necessarily possess all of them within yourself, and you need to know how to grow a team and have people around you who fill in the spots that let your strength shine, and then you can help their strength shine and stuff, and they might actually carry some of the things, some of the traits that maybe either you don't know that you don't have, or that that you don't have.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that those are very vital pieces of the puzzle when creating something that's extremely successful.
Yeah? Think that's important?
I do.
And why are you laughing? What are you doing? Yeah, you seem to have a little bit less energy today.
I have had a very long week.
It's like if we're not talking about my daily routine and what time I brush my teeth or wash my asshole and stuff, you're not very interested.
No, I was just curious. I mean, the thing was about routine, and now, I mean, without getting other people's input at the moment of more, sort of what their routines are or what they would like to have as a routine, or if they've even thought about it, it's kind of hard to keep it, interesting and different things where we could take it. Do we have any callers, Bo?
No, we don't have any callers. We have a buddy who is trying to listen. He was trying to listen on the app, but he was having a lot of trouble. So he said, "Hey, can I call in and listen? Just don't bring me on the phone."
He said, I unloaded 3 whole trucks today in a very short amount of time.
So you're the boss, huh? Now you're unloading trucks?
Yep. Because it has to. So, I mean, there are things that need to take place. So you estimate these jobs, and if, you don't have quite the strongest crew on them that can, effectively manage their time and things like that, it is you can do one of two things. You can go out there, you can sacrifice it, get that stuff done, help them, get those things, get it to a point where that estimate is successful, or you can let them go about their own devices and just have a long 12, 14-hour day, and you sit back and do nothing, and then you have to deal with a very unhappy customer, a person who's not, interested in telling anybody else about your company, or, they feel like they've been, sort of duped in some way because they end up paying a lot more, when all you have to do is go out there and take care of it yourself, and it's fine,
Very good. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. We actually have a caller. Caller, welcome to the Dapper Baboon Show. How is it going today? Who are we speaking with?
This is Steve in the 614. I've been on here before.
What's up, Steve?
Dog?
What's up, guys? So I hear you guys talking routines when I can, because I love that you guys have this, this talk radio, but that app is brutal. It's so hard to even listen because it just keeps cutting out. And I've seen some of the comments on prior, episodes. People have the same. I even pull it up on my computer. It just sits there and says loading for sound quality or something like that. I can't get it to work. So routine-wise, that fucking routine sucks. It's annoying me to death. I literally try to listen to you guys, but that app is so tough, man. It really just kicks you off every time. If you don't, scroll on your damn, cell phone, it literally will just drop you left and right. It's very hard to listen. But so with all this,
yeah, I
you
think
guys
Steve.
are talking,
I think
I'm really
Steve
surprised that you guys chose routine when everything right now is not routine. You have a lot of stuff. You guys, you have your show placed underneath political talk radio, and I don't know that you guys always want to talk politics, but I'm surprised you guys are alluding away from all the current events, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. We kind of go into every show, Steve, we don't necessarily have a plan per se, and we just kind of guide things to where things are going. I mean, we definitely can talk about those things. And as far as the app's concerned, one thing I've noticed about Blog Talk Radio is, first of all, I agree with you. I think it kind of blows. But the nice thing about it is it does afford us the opportunity for callers to call in, and it provides an interface for that. A lot of podcast software don't necessarily include that as an option for actual live shows with callers. We could do a podcast, record it, and not record it live, and make it sound amazing with software and send it back out. But one thing Blog Talk Radio is good for is, like I said, having live callers call in. But I also think Blog Talk Radio.
Sure.
Yeah, I think Blog Talk Radio was made in a time that it's actually made better to play in your computer browser, because they don't even have an app you can download, I don't think, and or at least if they do, it's very basic. So definitely need to look into better options. as far as that's concerned. At least I think that's important if we're going to grow, especially growing into more of a Facebook Live type format to where callers can call in and they can video call in too, and we can broadcast it kind of like a Zoom environment in that way, shape, or form. So those are things that we're tossing around. It's just like, I'll be honest, it kind of gets to be, you have your work and you have the things that you do in the week, and it's like, oh yeah, well, I was supposed to work on this. Did I do it? No.
So what you're saying, the routine gets in the way?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if that's not your routine, like I said, that's the thing. The routines that you have are more for a personal thing, based on more so than what your goals are, I guess, for anything. Like, you should have a routine for anything. Like, and if something's needs change, I get my stuff ready for the evening. I get ready for work tomorrow, so I know when I wake up, I shower, and I typically get I turn the water ice cold for the first minute or two, and it gets my adrenaline pumping, it gets me awake, it gets me focused. So, these are just things that I do right in the very beginning of my day. So by the time I get out of the shower, then I turn it back warm again, and I take a normal shower, but it's it really shocks me awake so I can stay focused on things I want to. Then I know I have several different things that I have to prepare and get ready, and there are 10 different moving parts that I have to have in place to get the day to go correctly. And then during that day, there are 100 different things that could go wrong, while additionally trying to also get more business into the thing so those days keep happening. It takes a lot of preparation and a lot of focus and a lot of drive to continue to do that. It's a lot different than just that's what I was doing. I was in a position before where I just, what's these people doing around me? I didn't have to do anything. I just, sold shit. And now that, it's to really have the reins and be in control and be the boss, it is a far different expectation and much more, it's what everything rides on. If a person like me doesn't exist, that stuff crumples and falls apart because none of those people want to do that. They need to be They need to be led and guided and given a routine. So if you've got people that, that are coming, they always call off, they have all these excuses, they work slow, they don't do different stuff, if you could get them to believe in you and see that your routine is something that is successful and makes them, you can give them certain things, like a routine to, a way to be on time for every day. There could be a routine just the way I need to set my alarm for this specific time. I live this far away, so I know that I'm going to have to drive this far. If there's traffic, I may have to account for 5 to 10 minutes of that, in my alarm or my time, or if I'm going to want a little bit more sleep or a little less sleep. There's so many moving parts all the time that I think it's good to have a routine.
Good. I was just going to ask, so as a leader, I'm a team lead right now. That's kind of my role. I work for one of these big insurance companies. I'll just leave it there. And, as a team lead, my job has been told to me, in my little mission statement, that my job is to inspire people to do better than they did yesterday. So that's all well and good, and I think I'm hearing you kind of say it a little bit is, I might be inspired, but, they're going to look at me and say, well, you're inspired because you get paid more than me. And I can tell you, in my life, it hasn't really been all about the money. Yeah, I want to get paid, but at the end of the day, you want rewarding work. Imagine being those people doing that same routine every day where they don't feel like they can do anything else, and then they got you telling them, you come in with that sunshine and roses, and then they have a response to it. It's really hard to try to really inspire them in a true way other than giving them that old corporate talk. And I can tell you, I bet Bo could probably recognize this even, and you, that after you've heard that so many times, you're numb to it. That's not inspiring anymore. So how do you turn that around and, and keep them from just getting complacent? Because in my opinion, that's what they become. They're just complacent after a while. They're not moving up. They don't feel like they can go anywhere. After you, I'm going to do the bare minimum. I'm still in the same paycheck. Even if I go above and beyond, I still get the same paycheck. How do you get past that?
Because it all depends on what someone's expectations and what their wants are. if the majority of people don't want this responsibility. They don't want to be the boss. They don't want to grow in their career. They just have they want to be that worker bee that works there and sits there. So I mean, if there are people that are like that, those people are going to stay that way forever because they're already complacent and they're not going to change that routine. The people that are going to impact it and do stuff move up to team lead. You know what I mean? They get to the point where they want to do it for other people and they're trying and they're doing it. And you will come across people that will. They'll advance. You'll teach them and they'll be receptive to it. And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Because I want to be in position of management. I want to do this. So if you have to take those steps, it shouldn't, like you said, I haven't always been worried about the paycheck. I wanted to. There are people that are like that. You know what I mean? Like I was watching this thing as Andy Frisella. He's like, you know what? Being a millionaire isn't for everybody. It's not for everybody. It's hard. He's like, you have to get up. You have to work 15 hours a day. You have to do it for fucking, bullshit money. You have to. That's just what you got to do, and you keep grinding until you fucking make it there. And even when you make it there, it's just as hard to maintain it and keep it. It is not for everybody. If you don't, some people are just happy where they are, but they like to complain and get, try to vent by being like, it doesn't matter if I fucking, right. It doesn't matter. Don't give up. You know what I mean? Like these people that, don't want to try and get complacent with it aren't the people that you should have in those positions anyway. You need the people that want to move forward should be there, and not the people just taking up space for people who could actually fucking come in and be something successful. They should want to move past it and learn how to train people to do that sort of thing, and then they won't be in that position anymore. They have grown past it, and if they are good, they should find other people that will do it too, or they're not very good at their shit.
I worked in a pretty tough sales environment as a manager. So I had a team of people under me, and I was basically, the sales manager of a team in a call center. And one of the things that was handed down to us that was mandated by the people ahead of me is that the first, I want to say 20 minutes of each day was a team meeting. Right, and that team meeting was supposed to be all positive. We wasn't supposed to cover anything negative. We wasn't supposed to you need to do this better or that better and stuff. So each day, which was either 5 to 6 days a week, my job was to, as a sales manager, be a motivational speaker for 20 minutes of the day. Now, sometimes I did a good job of it. Sometimes I didn't do so good of a job of it. But I will say this. People don't. Everybody loves to be motivated. Not a lot of people have a good time. Not a lot of people have how do I want to say this? Everybody loves to be motivated, but what's hard is to stay motivated. And while Dave, I think there's a good point to, you saying people got to find it in themselves, and people got to, there's going to be these people who want this for themselves and want to do those things too. It also, people become jaded. So Steve, you're talking about being a team lead and trying to motivate people and stuff. You also have to realize that there comes a point to where it gets old, right? At some point, the people who, Dave are talking about, the people who are self-motivated and stuff like that, they're like, hey, you're wasting 20 minutes of my day that I could actually be working towards the things that I need to get done. Your motivation isn't helping me because I'm self-motivated. And then there's some times where, it works. But it really is, the problem is that there are enough problems in the day for today. And not only is there enough problems in the day for today, but you've had enough problems in your past. And as far as everybody always says, leave your problems at home, it's impossible to leave your problems at home. Everybody carries a burden with them to work. And unfortunately, in a corporate environment, you can't focus on that, and you can't really do that. But the fact of the matter is, we live in a society where there's a very mixed work environment. You have single mothers here coming into work that are running late because they're having problems dropping their kids off at daycare. they're stressed out walking into work because of that. You have a single dad. You know, you have a number of different situations. You got people who are fighting off traffic because they're commuting 45 minutes to work every day, and they never know if fucking downtown Cincinnati traffic is going to be getting to work. So I mean, it's all fine and dandy to say those things, but realizing that you have people who are working with you who are spending the majority of their days with you, working for you, and to ask those people to not come in and have their personal lives actually affect them. The only people who come in that way are people who are like fucking single and are like, you know, not have all this fucking shit and drama going on. And so that's a hard thing in the workplace now, is because it's everybody has their own problems and stuff, and they bring them to work. And I would say, you know, it's impossible not to, and that's why good managers are important, is because, and there has to be a line too, because even being a good manager and stuff, you can't get all embroiled in people's personal lives and stuff, because that's going to be a problem, because people use shit against you because it's that corporate ladder. People are going to stab your back while they're trying to move up corporate ladder, and if you're in the way, you know, they'll try to take you down. So it's a really hard game to play, and it takes a lot of strategicness, and that's the reason why a lot of people now who have broad-ranging viewpoints, who have broad-ranging experiences, who maybe liberal arts degrees, like people who went to school for liberal arts and stuff, actually are turning out to be really good managers in the corporate world, because they have a broad knowledge on a number of different subjects as far as how to deal with people through socialism, psychology, and things like that, which are turning out to be really marketable skills, even though, you know, we've grown up our whole lives being told they're not.
I would agree that people are not great at compartmentalizing things. I can tell you, I literally have a team of one guy and 14 women, and if any of you guys have ever been in that environment, you know you have 14 women who absolutely, they need to talk through things. Not only, like, you know, I'd have to say growing up, you think, oh, they're girls, of course they just talk. Well, you could say that, and like you just said, you know, it's all good and well to say, hey, you know, chuck it at the door, and when you come in, I don't want to, you know, I think that's actually the wrong way. I will be honest, like, I tried not to, I don't want them to tell me details. If you need to leave for the day and that's what you need, go. But I don't want the details, because, like you just said, I don't want me to play favoritism because I really understand your issue because it's about your kids. What about that girl who doesn't have kids and she just happens to have Crohn's, or she has something else, and, you know, her issues are different, and you're dismissing her issues because, yeah, you recognize it's okay because, well, they have kids, or they have an issue going on with their grandparent, or something like that. Like, you got to almost remove yourself from that and just say, you know what, whatever your issue is, it's important to me. I don't want to know it, but I want you to know that if you need time for something, that you can have it. You can't take advantage of me, you know, and it can't be all the time. But I've actually found that doing that gets me way more out of them. They have a lot more respect for me than if I, you know, marginalize their issues and all of a sudden say, well, you're here to do a job and that's all I want from you. That's great, and that's probably true for the last 30 years of my life. That's kind of how I was always trained. You know, and I'm somebody, I can tell you, I go to work, I do put it all on the shelf, and I go to work and I do my job. I'm very private at work. I don't want you knowing about what I do at home because, honestly, I am a little jaded. I don't necessarily think you even care, and I'm not going to tell you all my stories so then you can then pull, you know, those strings against me either. At the same time, as a lead, look, whatever it is you have going on, you go take care of it. You know, but just so you know, I still need to make sure this job is getting done. And I feel like if I say it more that way, then they understand, like, okay, he understands my issue, whether he knows what exactly that is or not, and he's got my back. So I really do, like you kind of said, I try to eliminate them. Don't tell me. I don't want the details. Just say you need the day off, or just say, hey, I need to leave today for an appointment. I don't care what your appointment is. Just communicate to me. Give me the communication. That way I can build coverage with other people, and it's fine. It definitely works more than that old mentality of you go to work, you work your hardest, and those people move up. We all know the hardest workers don't always move up. It's just not true. It really is who you know, not always what you know. I have an MBA, and I'm not a CEO, right? And I can tell you what gets you in trouble at work is not always drinking the company Kool-Aid. That's for me, right? So if I go to work and they tell me something is great and I say, you know what, I don't really love that idea. I think we should do blah, blah, blah. What they really wanted me to do in a lot of ways was just to echo their opinion and then pour the Kool-Aid onto my associates. And I can do that. And that, like you said, that'll work in the short term. But in the long term, they're going to see right through you. And before you know it, you can't inspire them at all because they know that you're just there and treating them as a cog in the wheel. You treat them like a person, as hard as it seems that you're like, well, I don't want to give special treatment. Don't give special treatment. Give everybody special treatment. Every one of them gets special. Like, you know, and I know in certain environments that's harder to do, but I work in corporate America. If they're out one day, they'll come back in, they'll pick it up. But if I decide to come down on them, not only do I not get harder work, I actually get an emotional employee who is now less productive. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I definitely think there are aspects of that. There are all kinds of shit that people go through. Like, for instance, there were 2 people, and, you know, day after day that had flat tires coming to work. And it's like, I don't know if they had flat tires or not, or if they were trying to make that. I mean, some of them had whole big excuses, like, oh, my father's getting it and rebalancing the tire now. I'll be there in an hour. Like, I don't know what some of that is. But, you know, some of these things you just have to be, that's just the way it is. Like, okay, I get here as soon as you can, but you have to understand there's shit going on. There are other people whose tires didn't go flat that are waiting on you to get this job, you know what I mean, to get this stuff done. And, yeah, but like you said, there is a balancing act with that. You have to also take care of their human experience. Like, yes, I do care about you, but I am also your boss, and that we also have a job to do. So we got to do both of these at the same time.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that it's I've been. It's funny because I don't know that I'm an especially good leader, but I've found myself in positions of leadership often in my life. So I would say one of the first ones was, I mean, you know, and this is kind of I don't know if it's the best example, but yeah, I was the field commander of the marching band in high school, right? So you know, we had a 200-member marching band, and I was the guy with the baton who fucking directed the band. Okay, so I was the head nerd. And one of the things I noticed at that time, I was also doing a thing called Civil Air Patrol, which was kind of like an ROTC thing. And, you know, we did drills and stuff for ROTC. And there's a lot of similarities between what you would consider armed forces drills and the things that you do in marching band. And there's actually a reason for that. It's because historically, you know, marching bands and stuff like that and the parades and stuff were tied to the same type of military drills, use a lot of the same terminology. Well, you know, during band camp and stuff, like, you know, I decided to, like, I kind of did the almost like drill sergeant thing where, like, I was, like, really loud with you know, with the, you know, left haste means turn left while you're marching, right haste means turn right and stuff. And then having people, like, you know, bark out the orders and yell, you know, while they're doing it. And, like, it was really cool and it was really empowering and, like, and everybody was into it and stuff. But then one of the things was that, like, it was cool that one time. It was maybe cool the second time. But then, like, the third time, the fourth, it starts to lose its luster. People get tired of doing it, you know. So it is kind of, it's weird. It's weird to get people motivated to follow what you're doing. And, you know, you have to change up your style because the same old just gets old. And especially in situations where, like, yeah, in the military and stuff, like, it's expected and you have to do it and there's a certain level of discipline that comes with it. But when you are voluntarily leading people that can, you know, they could go get another job somewhere else, you know, they're available and stuff, you know, then that becomes a little bit harder of an ordeal.
Well, I think in a lot of ways what you just said there is you have to be authentic. But sometimes to be authentic, then you got to put yourself out there. And I can, you know, I know sometimes that gets old too, right? Because you feel like they're, you know, why don't they feed off themselves? Why do you keep feeding off of me for? Like, can you just motivate yourself? But if you chose to be a leader, you knew when you took that role that they're going to look to you for guidance on everything. things that you didn't even think they were going to ask you about. They're asking you, you know, like I literally have people ask me about, I have a rental property, right, and they know that about me. So, like, you know, somebody didn't pay their water bill in my condo association. What do I do? Now, if I just dismiss them and say, well, I don't know, figure it out yourself, do you really think they're going to respond well to me? Like, they want a piece of you. They really want some sort of personal investment that you're making in them. And if you can do that, then you can keep them coming back, and they'll want to work for you because they know that you're personally invested in them. That took me a long time to open up to, because to me it was like, I'm not here to give you Steve. I'm here to give you the best financial analyst you're going to get. And, you know, then you go into leadership, and all of a sudden people are coming to you for, you know, like, I don't know anything about marriage. I've been married for 3 years, but I have a lady I work with who asks me questions about, do you think, you know, my boyfriend's being unfair? I'm like, I don't even know how to answer that. Like, that's not stuff I was prepared for when I took a team lead role. I mean, these girls, you know, my one girl has her kids have hand, foot, mouth, whatever that shit is. I don't know anything about that, but she wants to tell me about it. And then when she's done, she feels better. She goes back, and she's doing better right now, strictly because maybe she has a voice. It's stuff that I never knew that I needed at work. These people, they really put stock in that stuff, and you have to really listen to them and say, okay, what do you find valuable? How do I get you to come to work? Not in a fake way, but in a real way, you know, because some of them, they're not all shady. Some of them are going to have 14 flat tires, but others actually truly do have a life, and they have things that are going on, and they want you to understand. And, you know, when you say, well, I don't care, I just want you to get your work done, I know you guys have been in that situation. They don't respond the way you would think so. Like, oh, I just want you to come in and do work. They can't compartmentalize. They don't have that. That doesn't exist for them. And like you said, they're not aspiring to be a leader. They're just aspiring to get a paycheck so they can pay for their daycare for their kid or whatever. Or, you know, so
right.
You know, as you guys talk about, like, routines, like, I think that routine we talk about, like, you almost have to, like, break their routine. Like, okay, you know, today, guys, we're not doing that. We're doing something different. And if they know that you're actually putting some thought into it and some feeling into it, they'll get behind you. If it seems like something that was canned, that came down from your director, and they told you to do it, they're going to see right through it. So I just wonder, like, how you guys, like, try to stay inventive and, like, you know, so here's the routine of what we do every day at work. Do you guys ever try to break that up for them, or do you guys work in a very operational space where, look, yeah, all that's fun and good, but hey, we got to sell cars, we got to sell widgets. You know, like, how do you guys decipher between it's time to appeal to my employees versus, you know, getting the most out of them?
Here's my thing. I think it's more of an inside routine, an internal routine. The more I focus on some of this stuff is that I think most people inherently have a bitch voice. You know what I mean? They're like things. What I started doing is I started running, you know, between 2 and 4 miles every day after work. And when I was first trying to start doing it, I would get off of work and I'd have excuses. My bitch voice would be lighting up. I'd be like, it's 6 o'clock. I got to go, you know, I got to do this. I got to do this. And my bitch voice would take over, and I'd end up sitting at home, playing a video game, watching a movie, doing nothing. So eventually my routine became to stop like letting that bitch voice win. And I would be like, you know, and I'd be like, no, you know what? It is 6 o'clock. That's exactly. I got plenty of hours. I can, you know, for the next 2 hours I can run. For the next hour I can run. Maybe I can run faster and I can get it done in 45 minutes. You know, like I started challenging my voice that would make me, you know, usually quit, and my routine became to fight it. So then I started and I was running every day. I lost like 35 pounds in 3 weeks. And then, you know, I'm looking better. I'm, you know, tan from the sun and being outside. My body's looking fucking, you know, kick ass. Like, so my routine of that, of just giving up has changed. And then once you see that it works with some things, you start doing it with other things. Like if you're going into something thinking like, I just need to get over this day and fucking, I mean, that's your bitch voice talking. Like, you have to start noticing it and being like, you know what? I'm looking forward to this day. This is how I'm going to do this. And if you can't show other people how to do that, and, you know, like, this is the routine for work, so instead of being like, this is what I got to do day for day, this is my shit, you know, like, you conquer that voice, and you're like, no, this is what I get to do today. I get to do this. And then, you know, I'm going to be fucking, hopefully I can be the shit at it. I want to be good. And the more and more that they start to, like, conquer those things, I think is the important part of a routine. And that if some of those physical things, like being up by 7:30, being to work by 7:45, having a balanced breakfast, if that's a routine that keeps you in a positive space to where that's what you want your routine to be, like I just think that that's a good thing as long as you just keep fighting that voice. There are lots of things, like, just for when you're in that position, you're like, man, am I going to be able to do this? This is hard. This is fucking, like, this is a lot of shit for me to do. And then, like, I just feel like that's this bitch voice that's trying to, like, dare you not to be good at it. So you're just like, no, I am. So, okay, if I am good at it, what are the things that make me good at this? Okay, this thing, and this thing. Okay, so these three things make me a bad motherfucker when I'm doing this. So I start making it a routine to practice being good at those things. And eventually you're just good at those things, and you have to sort of, like, find other pieces and parts that make it. Okay, now I've got these things conquered. Now, if these three things, can they be conquered in a different way? Can I have someone else maybe take over one of these things that I've conquered and get them to where they understand it like I do? And, maybe that becomes a part of the routine. Okay, I need to get this person up to the same level as this. And it's just for this one specific thing. And if you can, get that a part of your routine, then it's part of their routine. And then it's a thing that, okay, I've got this settled. I mean, it's always changing and moving. But that goes back to what I was saying. You can only grow something to as far as you've grown. If you grow to a spot where you're like, you know what, these people aren't motivated, I don't know what to do, I guess I'll just, I'd like to motivate them, I can't. And that becomes your solution to it. You're like, oh, that's just, I figured it out. They're not really going to do it. Maybe I can switch it up sometime. Maybe I can do this. Like, you have to grow to a spot where you're like, no, I can change this. I can do exactly this, and these are the things that I need to do it. And, those people will either grow with you, the ones that can, or the other ones will fall away, and other people will be in there that can fulfill that thing. Because once you've grown that far, there's only it to catch up with you, not you catch up with it or be stuck with it at the same level.
Well,
I think there's a...
Go ahead, Bo.
I think there's a fine line, too, because there was a guy who I didn't necessarily agree with when I was at this position, but he was another manager, and he was kind of like, all this motivation stuff, all these different things that we do, this extra stuff, it's all bullshit. At the end of the day, it doesn't motivate people. At the end of the day, incentivizing people to do the job that they're already hired to do doesn't motivate them. In fact, what it does is it demotivates them during those times that you're not incentivizing them. He was like, what motivates me to get up and go to work? The fact that I need a paycheck, and the fact that I can come here and that I can put in a lot of extra work, and that I'll get paid good for it, and that I'll do good for it. He was like, when you start putting all these different incentives on play, doing these different games or contests for this and that, yeah, you may incentivize the people at that time, but then when you're not doing those things, then they're unmotivated to work, demotivational. And it really is one of those things, like, it's not necessarily your job to be a motivator. It's your job to... that's what I'm saying. There's two different ways of thinking about it. I know earlier I was saying, like, you have to juggle all these things. You got these people coming in, and they've got their personal problems they're bringing into work. But then on the other hand, too, as a manager, it's not your job to do those things. I've seen two different styles of management, and I will tell you this: the people that I've seen who have been able to handle it better are the people who are just. They're the people who are the managers who the employees complain about because they're assholes and they're impersonable. Those end up being the managers who are actually the better managers, who have a long career in it, because they're not getting themselves in trouble by getting involved in the muddled messes of everybody's life. They come in there in the same way. It's my job to do this. It's my job to manage you, to take care of these types of things. No, I don't care why you're calling in. In fact, don't even tell me why you're calling in, because it's none of my business. I don't care what you have going on at home. We all have shit going on at home, and it's none of my business. It's not my job to motivate you. It's your job to come here and do the job. And those people who are just very hard-lined in saying, like, this is what's expected of you. If you don't do what's expected of you, here's what's going to happen. And if you do what's expected of you, this is what's going to happen. Those tended to be, I'll be honest with you, the more successful managers But we also live in a time and day, too, to where that's almost frowned upon because of this idea that people don't leave jobs, they leave managers, for people not being personable.
Well, I would have to agree that every job I've ever left is because I worked for people that I couldn't stand being around. And if you want to do basic calculations, because I'm a finance person, if you spend 40 hours with the people that you work with, and you tell me how much time you spend with your girlfriend, your wife, or your kids, you got sleep a third of your life, you got all these other things that you're doing, you are not spending the 40 constant hours with the people that you actually love. You're going to spend more time with the people that you work with, so you might as well make yourself happy. And I learned that early on, but even well after college years, it was like, damn, yeah, I like this paycheck, but I work with the coldest people ever, and after a while, that it's going to wear on most average people. So when we say, well, it's not my job to motivate somebody, well, technically, I feel like you actually just said it at the end there. A new revelation in leadership is, yes, it is your job. And it's no longer, encouraged to tell them to check it out the door. I can tell you in my company, with new corporate America, all the new things coming on, especially with what's going on in the last 3 weeks, now it's all even more about how do we get their input? How do we get them to be engaged? How do we get them to become that type of associate? And it's no longer just, coming down on them for not performing well. It's how do we find ways to give them recognition when they do their job? Well, I'm like you. I'm like him. Honestly, fuck you. Do your job. Come in. Get your work done. That's your job to do. I'm just here to manage your work. I'm not here to do your work for you. But I can tell you when I act that way or I operate that way, I disenfranchise my employees. Now, I understand, I'm wired from a different time. I grew up in the 80s, blah, blah, blah. I lived, 500 yards from where you live, Bo. We weren't rich, and I guess for me, the role was I'm going to go get a job, and then I'm going to get another job, and I'm going to stack my ducats, and I'm going to go and I'm going to save money. And that's my story. Well, then I go to work, and I work with people who are freaking blue chips, man. They've never had to worry about anything. Their whole mindset is different. They have a job just for something to pass the time with. Me, my job is that's my success rate, right? If I want to be successful, I got to go in there, bust my ass, be better than the next guy, and I'm going to move up. And that's how I think. I don't think, well, I'm going to come in here and network, and that's going to move me up. I think, well, let my work speak for me. But I can tell you some of these networkers who play off of that new style, they move up faster than I do, and sometimes it is who they know and who they networked with. So you kind of have to think about both approaches. I respect what you're saying. I've always been told hard work will get you where you want to go. But I'm a realist at this point where I can say it's not just about hard work. You've got to be willing to do some of these intangible things, or you're not going to actually get where you want to go. And like we talk about our associates not being the most productive individuals, well, they don't probably see the incentive for them. Like you just said, if you put an incentive out there and, hey, if you do this, you hit these sales goals, you get a free TV, it's amazing how well you can incentivize them. It's almost like, why don't we always have an incentive program? Incentivize hard work, and you get more. Otherwise, you get the basics. I think incentivization is probably the best way to engage your workforce. Like, what's in it for me? I give you extra $500. You'll move them, and we all move up because we want to make more money. We want that success. They want it too. They just probably don't want to be a manager.
Or because there's more shit. I mean, I think if a lot of those people that their motivation is a paycheck, the way to motivate them is I'm going to take this paycheck away. There are a lot of guys sometimes there is some of that. Like, well, if you don't do it, you can't work here anymore. Like, you just don't. This isn't going to be your job. We're gonna find somebody who will do it, and they'll do it for the same fucking thing, the same price, the same cost. They're not going to be fucking like you. They just have to understand some of this stuff too. It's like, if you have so much shit going on at home and maybe this isn't for you. Maybe this isn't a position that you deserve or that you need, because, I mean, if you're that easily shaken by things and that you have to stay focused on that more than you do your job, then I guess, this isn't the job for you. And you get rid of them.
Yeah, and I mean, it is one thing to say, it's one thing to incentivize. Now, incentivizing certain types of things does bring about success. But studies have shown, too, that when you start to incentivize things that require abstract thought, so, maybe if you're doing an incentive in, the the criteria is pretty basic, right? Let's say your average employee is making 50 calls a day, just to use the call center as an example. And you want to incentivize, okay, we want our average employee to raise that call level to 75 calls a day, because you know that if you can get if you can raise the call rate by half, that you're going to close this many more accounts just based upon, numbers. So if you're incentivizing that type of thing, like it's a very basic thing that you're asking them to do, then incentives help. But if it's something abstract, if it's something that takes a lot of brain power and a lot of problem solving, what studies have shown is that incentivizing actually reduces productivity. So using the same example, if you were to if you were to incentivize something along the sales process of, okay, I want you to find new leads. I want you to think outside of the box and find ways to find new leads of something that you're doing, something that takes abstract thought and takes some thinking outside of the box. Actually, monetarily incentivizing these things actually reduces the productivity in that endeavor. Discuss amongst yourselves.
I think that's an interesting concept. I can tell you, for me, my motivation is definitely different. For me, I was poor, so money was the ideal motivator. It probably still is my core motivator because, well, I've accumulated some wealth and I want to accumulate more, so that's my motivator. But I can tell you, some of these people, as we talk about this, we can go to this ad nauseum, that's not their motivator. They already have money. They grew up in a wealthy family. They get satisfaction by coming in and doing good work. Like they have, I almost think the three of us probably make fun of that. Like, are you serious? Like you come here for like the camaraderie? What? Like if I already had money, I wouldn't be here. I'm sorry, that's how I am. Like I wouldn't go to work if I was a millionaire. I would work at I would still work, but I wouldn't be pushing an 8-to-5 job. I'd be selling stocks and bonds or something. I would go find other side hustles that would be more fulfilling. I'd have a food truck or something. I'd be self-employed. But I can tell you, I work with a lot of people. I'd sell that story to them, and they look at me like I'm crazy. They have no ambition to be self-employed. They want to work for somebody. They want the benefits. They want all those things. And honestly, as soon as I can get out from underneath that, that's what I would do. I see a way of getting further ahead is by just not blowing money, because I don't need all these superficial things. I just seem not have that. These people get, a raise, they go buy another car, or they go out and buy, and I don't do any of that shit. I literally just take the money and I put it in my account, and then I take that and I, parlay it into something else. And when I preach that to them or speak that kind of mindset to them, that is literally outside of their thought process, especially depending on how they were raised. If they're rich, they've never had to even think about money. If they're poor, a lot of them never got the education, so they don't even know what you're talking about. You literally can't get through to them until you can start level setting. And hell, by the time you get through to them, they're moving on to a new job. So I understand what you guys are saying. I guess for me is, like, I don't think I can ever identify how to inspire somebody if I don't know how to motivate them. And I have to actually probably invest some sort of personal investment to them to even get to that point. And it is exhausting, because after a while you find out some of them really don't care and they're just playing you. And the ones that do care, you really can't help them because they're not helping themselves, and you can't really step in because all you do is a crutch. So I get all that, but I wonder, like, because at the beginning of this conversation you guys were talking about a routine, and are you guys trying to get away from that routine? Like, do you like going in and selling cars? Do you like being a manager? Is there an end goal to this? Like, do you want to work your 30 years and retire and have a condo on the beach? I always tell people, like, what's your goal? Like, where do you want to get to? And then tell me how I can help you get there, because I don't think people really know what their goal even is. They're just kind of going through life, no real, purpose. I can tell you from a young age, I said, man, this sucks. I don't like being poor. I'm going to go out here, I'm going to go do something. But I had a lot of peers where I can look back and say, you guys were way ahead of me when I was a kid, and you guys haven't done shit, because either they weren't raised to want something, they were just waiting for mommy and daddy to hand it to them, or they just literally never had an idea of what ambition was. And so when you guys are sitting around these people every day in your job, how do you affect that, or do you just say, fuck you, like, you know, get it done, or I'm firing you? Like, you know, I understand both sides. I wonder in 2020 if you guys even have to evolve. You know, I just wonder that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You can only grow to something as far as or grow something as far as you've grown. You have to evolve. There's no other option. Some of these, and all of these things work with different people. Sometimes the firing thing works. Sometimes the getting personal thing works. Sometimes it's just always different. It just depends on what their goal is, like you were saying. And that's like my goal is never to stop. My goal is to have, one franchise and then have multiple franchises and then get those people in those multiple franchises to get their own franchises and get their own, like to keep it moving. Eventually I'd like to be at just the very high top end of it that, and then I can start making real changes for other people's life. I mean, I think that trying to motivate people when you don't really have the power to actually make their life better is kind of bullshit. Like, you can't really do anything for them. You can give them all the fucking shit in the world, but once you do something for yourself and you get yourself into a position where you can actually change someone's life, that's when you can motivate them, because, like, then they're like, okay, this person really can. They've done it for themselves. They've got plenty of fucking opportunity and stuff accessible to them. I know they could do it. So if I actually put forth the effort, I believe in this and do it. I mean, that's it. But if that's what they want, do they want to just work the 30? Do they want to be a manager? Do they want to not only be a manager but also fucking have a franchise of their own? If they want that franchise of their own, is that enough? Are they just going to have that franchise and that be their life for the next 10 years until they sell it off, or do they do whatever? Do they want 5 more franchises so they can buy, have all these people working and have a network and a group, like this thing that you're just a powerful, portion of this? I mean, it just depends on how much you want to do. So,
I guess my getting at is you focus on that actual development, development being a broad term. But so so you go and have that conversation. What are you looking to do? And they say, you know what, I want to become you. And you hear that and you're, oh, okay. And you know what it takes to become you. You know what you had to give up. You know what you had to do to get there. So then when you think about that, like to me in my space, I'm in corporate America, so I don't necessarily know exactly what your environment is. I have an idea of what Bo's is, because I'm thinking, okay, you guys are out there. I've had somebody try to sell me a car, and I know what the environment feels like. Like, I don't necessarily love that. But anyways, what I'm getting at is, in my environment, I have people who are working this white-collar job, and, they come in, they work 40 hours, and they talk about, well, I want development. What does development mean? Like education, or you want to get to a better place in your job? You guys focus on stuff like that. Like, so when we say, what motivates you. You sound like, honestly, I know Bo, I know you guys probably have very similar interests than I do. Like, you want to be successful in a way that you can have a good lifestyle and you can do the things that you want to do and feel like you're having a purpose, hopefully, of some sort of purpose, whatever that is for you. But with that being said, when you think about it's time for me to now invest in others and try to get them to that next level, how do you develop them then, right? So we talk about motivation, talk about inspiring people, talk about all these great things, but how do you develop that? How do you get them to, because at the end of the day, they're not canned. They don't walk in with all the perfect skills. They have some skills you really like, and you're going to develop the rest. How do you do the latter part?
Okay, so what about your boss? Is his position?
I think one of the most important things that anybody ever told me as far as developing other people is that if you want to move up, you have to develop your replacement. So you're not going to you have to be able to prove that you can teach somebody how to fill your shoes, and once you do that, you prove that you have the skills to be able to move up to the next level. That being said, we talked a lot about motivating people and stuff, and it becomes like it is hard because, like, you want to intrinsically motivate somebody, but at the end of the day, you also realize that you're motivating somebody for your own selfish purposes too. So, are you really motivating somebody, or are you manipulating somebody? And it's a fine line to walk, and I've struggled with it personally. Is that it's your job to motivate people, but it's also your job to motivate people. So it's a manipulation in and of itself. And so it's really hard to be genuine.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why can't you just outwardly say that? Look, at the end of the day, me giving you success, what's good for the goose is good for the gander type thing. Look, the more I build you guys up, absolutely the team functions better. I'm aware of that. But at the end of the day, if you tell me that right now you're an analyst and you want to be a senior analyst, I'm going to give you the blueprint. Here's how you can become a senior. Here's the kind of things I'm going to look for. Here's what my boss wants from you. I'm the team lead, so I then have a manager over top of me, and I have a director above that. And they want the top performance. They're going out and pulling their metrics. How come we're not resolving more issues faster? How come we're not? I work in reconciliations. I'm in an accounting environment. That's what I do. So we work reconciliations, and that's what we do, right? So it is a widget environment, and they're always asking for, output to be higher. But, at the same time, if I don't spend any time on development for those people, they just leave me anyways. But if I put them through, and say, hey, I want you to take 1 hour every week, and I want you to go engage in something that we have here on campus, and I give them that, it's weird how much they're actually more dedicated. And you say, it's fake. It's not fake. Tell them up front, look, I want to develop you because at the end of the day, it makes my team better, and that makes it, and that does help me. But at the end of the day, I'm going to help you, and be genuine about it. When you say it's hard to be genuine, no, just say it. Be honest about it. Look, I need you to sell cars, or I need you to sell widgets. I need you to do your job as best as you can, because the better you do your job, the better I look, and the better I look, I'm going to make sure to give that recognition back to you. And it's so weird. Listen, we all talk about hard work, and I know that's valuable. And to me, that's still my bread and butter. That's what I aim for. I'm just going to do it better than the next guy. I'm going to learn. I don't know how to do everything, but I can learn it. A lot of people don't have that. Right? I don't know how to do that. They don't want to even touch it, right? So, that's their game. My game's a little different than that. And a lot of times when you're at work, you just have to drink that Kool-Aid, right? When you're selling cars, are you allowed to say that Chevy sucks? If you're selling Chevys, I don't think that's probably going to go over real well, right? They're not going to respond to that. I ask, Bo, I kind of want to know more from him. I hear what you're saying. I wonder, do you have development sessions with your members, and how do you go about those conversations? Is it just blunt and gruff, or is it are you really trying to get them better, or is it just a matter of getting the widgets done? I just wonder. Maybe I keep going back to the same thing. I just want to know how you actually bridge that.
Because I have to find out what they want. You know what I mean? I had a conversation with the guy the other day, and I was like, hey, because he messaged me, and he was like, hey, I'm coming to work tomorrow. I need the hours. This is what I'm going to do. I was like, number one, you don't tell me what you're going to do at all. Number two, I can take care of that. If you'd like to get some hours and you'd like to be scheduled and you want to do some stuff, sure, I can do it. But you're not going to tell me what you're going to do. I'm going to tell you what you're going to do. And I was because I know the way this conversation could have went is you said that to me, and I said, nope. And as a matter of fact, since you don't come into work at all, maybe for the rest of the week, because this isn't how this works. So I'm like, so what is your motivation? I was like, what do you want? Do you want to have do you want to move up? Do you want to be in a position of where you have something to do? Do you want to be a manager? Do you want to be a team leader? Do you want to be, or do you simply want to be a person who gets a lot of hours and they're on the schedule? And their answer was, I just want to be on the schedule and get a lot of hours. Okay, that's what you're going to get. So now you figured out what they need. They need to be scheduled. So you just schedule them hours, and you don't have to work on their development and their process and what they're going to do, because that shit's already settled. So you ask these people, what do you want? Well, I'd like to be a driver, or I'd like to be a such and such. Okay, so let's start doing that. You have to make those movements. If that's what they want, like you said, if somebody wants this development and you send them to something on campus or tell them to get involved, they get dedicated to it because that's what their goal is. They wanted to get that class. They wanted to get that extra bit. You gave it to them. Here we go. Now what's next? Now that you've learned that, what can you do with it? Maybe once they get there and they get that class, they're like, you know what? I didn't actually like it. I don't want to do that. Okay, cool. You don't want to do it? Don't do it anymore.
Steve, what you were asking is you were kind of asking to get a little bit of some insight of what Dave does. Dave does what I used to do, which is managing a moving company, and part of the problems with this is that it's a little bit of a unique problem within, as far as I can tell, the moving industry is that it's very, the hours and stuff between your employees and stuff, it's based upon need. And because you're moving people, it's very wishy-washy because, hell, you have some people that are moving from a ranch house to another ranch house, right? We know that move should only take about 3 hours. Then I might be having somebody who's moving from a 3-level, and this move is going to take all damn day, right? And then I might have a day that, hell, our whole schedule is booked up. I need every single person who works for me to come in that day. So one of the problems is that your employees they day by day don't really know how long they're going to work and how hard the day is going to be. And in fact, based upon the schedule, they might not even know if they're even going to work a full schedule that week. They might work part-time that week because there's not that many moves booked. Not only that, there's people who are moving from, there's people who might be moving from Ohio to Florida, and I've got to tell guys a few weeks in advance and figure out, okay, who am I going to get, what team am I going to put together that's going to drive from Ohio to Florida, and I know that once they get to Florida, there's not going to be any problems because I can't go help them in Florida. So there's some really unique issues in the moving industry as far as being a manager. And not only that, it's kind of a shit. I mean, it's a hard work job, and you don't get paid a whole lot of money. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't make good money because
some people don't get paid a whole lot of money. You got to know what your value is. You got to go in there. You got to know your worth.
So people get paid to, people will tip you and things like that. But I mean, you don't necessarily get paid a very good hourly wage for what you're doing, at least for who we work for, right? You get paid $13 to $15 an hour if you're a driver. You get paid maybe $10 to $12 an hour for a mover if you're not the one actually moving the truck. And it's hard physical labor, and your longest days are in the summer. That's when people are moving and buying houses and stuff. So you got people who are working very long days, very hard, and our busiest weeks and stuff, you're going to get to Friday, and these people have busted their ass all week, maybe worked 10-hour days, 10 to 12-hour days, a few days in a week, and they're tired by the time it gets to Friday and Saturday. And you might have needed those people all week, Monday through Saturday. And once Saturday comes, you got people who are calling in, blah, 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 people that are hurt, different types of things. So it's a little bit of a different environment than what might be a little less chaotic because your day is fluctuating so much. And then you have to deal with problems. You have to deal with, so a guy on the job dropped a piano, right? So there's this big damage, and the customer's pissed off, and now there's all this and that. Plus, you have people who work for you and stuff who, it's like I said, it's not a whole lot of money, so you're kind of dealing with the workforce a lot of times that probably like to come to work high and shit. And so now you got the customer complaining that there's a guy working on their job and he smells like weed, So it's a really interesting environment to manage just because there's so many different aspects that go into it, and it's really hard for. I will say this: I felt a lot for the guys who worked for me, just because while they could make good money, a lot of times they wasn't making really good money, and then not only that, the work and home life balance just was really off because you never knew. You might be coming home. You might be coming home at 8 o'clock one night. You might be coming home at noon the next day. You couldn't really plan what you was going to do in the evening and stuff. So that's just kind of the life of a mover.
No, I appreciate that, and that's kind of what I was asking because I kind of heard what he's saying. In that space, I think it's probably some of the conversation I just discussed. Probably, maybe I don't want to diminish it. Maybe it doesn't really apply there sometimes. I do feel I feel strongly for people who work menial labor, because I understand that they're really doing the grunt work for a lot of us, white-collar kids. But, you have to kind of work through that to get somewhere. I just kind of, like you said, I mean, if they're not motivated, you can't force them to be motivated. You can't make them take that next level. So with all that being said, I've known Bo forever. I don't necessarily know you, but I kind of heard your story for a while, ins and outs. Like, did you have an end goal when you started into this career? And you said, hey, this is where I want to get to, or did you just kind of stumble into this, and this is now your passion because it has to be?
Yeah, I mean, well, I was doing improv comedy with Bo, and he's like, hey, there might be a job you'd probably be good at. So I was like, all right, let's do it. And I became really good at it because it was just, and then I realized that you didn't get paid much unless you busted your fucking ass. So like that's what I'm saying. You go in there, you get a certain percentage of something, and if you only do a little bit, you're only going to make a little money. But if you do a lot of it, you make a lot of money. So like, it all depends on what your motivation is. And once I started to learn more about the ins and outs of this and what the outcomes could become if you really dedicated and focused yourself on this, and plus the people that get involved with it, they're of like mind to you, especially up in that higher level that have management skills and that are running these things and that are doing it. They want to succeed. They want to do well. They want everyone around them to do well, and they do everything that they can to make sure that happens all the time. So once you get to that level, there's an end goal. Yes, my end goal is to have my own franchise. And then once I have my own franchise and it's running successful, my goal is to find people within that franchise that are able to move up and grow and take that spot so I can get another franchise, or I can get 2 more franchises, and then once I get 2 or 3 franchises, then I have these people that have been running these franchises for a year or so. 2 years, they're very good at it. They've understood the work ethic and the things that need to take place during it. Then I have the money now where I can start to change their life. I'm like, okay, so you're ready for real? Okay, here's $200,000. Let's start you out at one, and I need you to pay me back $400,000 for helping you out. So if they've already known the process, they know what to do, they know how to get it. They can make that on themselves. And the people that can't, now you have another franchise where you have to find somebody that can run that, and you can either find somebody within the people that you already work with, you can try to hire somebody outside of it. Like I said, it doesn't become really great money until you start to like branch out past that. You have to learn how to make money for someone else so you can make it for yourself.
Yeah, I think Steve, I want to segue here a little bit. I think Dave, you make some good points there, just kind of more in depth of the deal that you was given for running your franchise. But since you're a financial analyst and you're on the phone, man, I just got to ask you. All right, so at the start of this whole, well, maybe not the start, but about maybe a month into this coronavirus thing, so I took my stimulus, and this money I was getting from stimulus and unemployment, I decided to put it in the stock market, right? So I put like $3,000 in the stock market, all right? As of June 8th, okay, at June 8th was my peak, okay, at June 8th, and I was using Robinhood, so like I'm just doing this myself, and I don't really know what I'm doing. So I had turned that $3,000 into $4,450, right? So I was up about $1,500, okay? So I turned $3,000 into $4,500, and now I'm down to $3,900 because of the dip in the stock market. So I want to ask you, as a financial analyst, do you expect that we're going to be heading towards a bear market, a bull market? And if you had $4,400, where would you be putting it?
All right, so I'm going to answer the first part of it. You say you're a financial analyst. When you say financial analyst, it's kind of like when you say accountant or anything else. That's a broad term. Financial analyst that you mean is somebody who actually has licensing to actually go and pick and assign stocks. I work as a financial analyst in accounting. And accounting, again, is another broad term. You think, well, that's somebody who can do my taxes. But if you did that to a CPA, they'd kind of be annoyed with you because, well, if I'm a CPA, I'm not necessarily somebody's going to prepare your taxes. I guess what I'm getting at is financial analysts. Don't assume somebody says financial analyst, that means they know everything about stocks and bonds. But you have somebody who actually does like that. So here's what I'll tell you. Basically what I was getting at is you're making the assumption that I know stocks and bonds, but I actually enjoy it. I like investments. I would like to
I've heard you talk about it before.
So, yes. So here's what I'll tell you. If I had money and I was your age, I would absolutely invest my money into an S&P 500 index fund, and I would take standard market risk, and I would let that money run. When I say that, that's because I don't know your risk adversity. I don't know whether you're willing to take a little more risk, or if you want to be very conservative in the appreciation of your $4,400 or your $3,900. To me, I would tell you that you're a long investor because you're essentially 40 years old and you probably got 20 to 25 more years to continue to work. Therefore, you're what I consider a long investor. And every time the market went down, I would buy. And, everybody else will, well, if the market's really high, maybe I should sell off. Now, that's ridiculous because you don't even need to think that way for about 25 years, depending on how long you want to work for. But in the short term, to be prudent, I would tell you listen to Warren Buffett because Warren Buffett has the best advice you'll ever listen to. There's a lot of pundits out there that will tell you a lot of different things about chasing stocks and whatnot, but I can also tell you that you're a small-time player and you need to just stick to what the institutional investors are doing. You can go and look in any mutual fund you buy and look at the top 10 holdings. If you want to own your own stocks in Robinhood, which I actually encourage Robinhood because it's incredibly cheap, and it gets you away from what's called expense ratio. Expense ratio, just to be sure, is what you pay them to manage your money for you. And I would tell you to avoid that because you can generate wealth faster by just doing it yourself. You can literally go buy Vanguard, S&P 500 index fund, put your money in that for 10 basis points, which means 0.1%. That means they're getting very little of your assets over a period of time, and you can generate your wealth at a standard market risk. Standard market risk meaning S&P 500 index is a standard market that exists, kind of like NASDAQ or, your New York Stock Exchange, Dow Jones, stuff like that, right? So all of those are just, anyways, S&P 500 index, that's where I would put my money. I don't know where you put your money. You said you went into Robinhood. You had to pick something. You picked the stock. You picked the mutual fund. I don't want to pay somebody else to do something I can do for myself. That's just kind of how I am as a person. I'm going to do it myself. Stocks and bonds are not that hard. There's so many good people out there who can tell you what to do, and you need to just be doing your due diligence. You need to do your homework, read about stocks. But, again, if you want to pick your own stocks, don't necessarily worry about the specifics. I'm going to stop there. But if I had $4,400, I would take my money in Robinhood or some other cheap dashboard. I'd probably put it in an IRA so I didn't have to pay any taxes in the meantime. With you, since it's post-dollar money, I would go ahead and put it in a Roth IRA so I'm not having to pay taxes when I do pull the money out. So I'd put it in a Roth IRA, I'd put it in the S&P 500 index fund, and I'd let my money run, and I would continue to put $25 in there every 2 weeks or $50 or whatever I can afford. And then when the market, takes a dip, instead of being concerned and selling off, I'd buy more. That's what I would do.
Gotcha. Yeah, I do have a lot of my stocks are in like ETF funds that are like, one of them's like bots, and so that fund's based upon like companies that are funding robotics and artificial intelligence and stuff like that. And one of them is like a Vanguard, to where like its top holdings are like Facebook and some of the bigger companies or whatever. So I think like to buy a stock of that is like $190. I got like 5 of those or whatever. But I didn't start out with those. I kind of filtered some of my money into those because I thought they were a little safer than some of the things I was investing in. So
I think safe for you should be considered standard market risk, and that's what S&P 500 would provide for you. That's a certain, I don't remember exactly how many stocks are in S&P 500. You think it's 500, but I don't think that's accurate. Anyways, it's a number of stocks that are picked out of the market, and that's kind of what your investment portfolio would be based on through that mutual fund. Since they don't have to actively do anything for you, they're just really just mopping the portfolio of the S&P 500. It's called passive. And in that case, it costs them a lot less money to manage your money, therefore you pay less. Unless you want to go out and pick your own stocks, I will always tell you, find a standard mutual fund of the market and just invest in that, because then you get diversification. You don't have to go out and find diversification yourself. You don't have to go pick 10 stocks that you believe in. You let them do that for you. And why not let them do it and also pay very little to have them do it? Because a lot of these other mutual funds you can pick that are more actively invested, you might pay 2.5% every year, whether you made money or not. You have $10,000 invested, they get 2% every year. And over time, that's a lot of money. So try to eliminate those expenses, and that's stuff that every investor himself can do. You go pick that. You say, well, this one's cheaper. It's got about the same return as this one has over a period of time. You know, that's all basic research you can do on Yahoo Finance. Don't overcomplicate it. Google Finance. Those are things that are right at your fingertips. You know, a lot of people make this super hard, so then they pay somebody else to do it. Well, they're literally taking your money and putting it exactly where you would have paid it or put it, but you're not paying them an arm and a leg to do it. You know, like Fidelity and some of these bigger arms that, you know, hey, Charles Schwab, come here and I'll you know, if you want that customer service and that's some sort of, you know, comfort blanket that you need, great. But I can tell you that they're not providing you anything other than what you tell them. They're going to ask you, what's your risk adversity? What kind of things are you looking for your money? Are you wanting income? Are you wanting growth? And they're going to take that, and then they already have literally a model that tells them where they're going to put your money. They're not doing anything you can't do yourself. So I always tell people, because I lived it, go educate yourself. Know your money. Don't let somebody else manage your money. It's kind of like your accountant. Know what the hell the W-2 is. If you don't know, Google it, because I guarantee you Google has an answer for you. So to everything like he was saying, I think, you know, you guys are kind of saying a lot of ways that go out and do your own due diligence, do your homework, do your footwork. Like, that's your job to do. Of course it is. But a lot of people lean on somebody else to do it for them and then wonder why they don't get the return or they emotionally invest. Don't be an emotional investor. You have a long time. Otherwise, don't invest. If you don't think the market's going to go up, take your money, put it underneath your mattress. That's fine. Go buy gold and put that underneath your mattress. Fine. But if you believe in the market and you believe in its longevity, put your money in there, and every time it goes down, that's a good time for you to buy. Otherwise, have some cash sitting there waiting to buy. And it really doesn't require a lot of intelligence. It actually requires you to be less emotional than everybody else. Everybody else is selling off, and you believe the market long-term trajectory is to go up, buy. That seems counterintuitive to a lot of people. You know, buy low, sell high. Well, that's all well and great, but you're going to have to buy as the market fluctuates. So when it fluctuates downward, buy. Everybody else will be selling, you're buying.
Well, hell yeah. Yeah, I think I did real good because the market, because when I got in, everything was going up. And then when the last few days we had a downturn, I did kind of freak out a little bit. And then I bought some things I probably shouldn't have bought that I probably bought high, and so now I'm kind of stuck with them for a while before I even get back to breaking even, you know. So.
Well, you have to keep in mind, you don't do that to yourself, because if a stock is down and it's going to stay down, there's no reason to leave that money there and just hang on to a dead dog. That dog's dead. Fuck it. Take your money and move it into something that's going to move. Cut your losses. You have your gains, you have your losses. At the end of the day, you got to pay capital gains taxes. Take that loss, set it against your gain, cut your losses, move on to something that's going to move up. Don't dwell on that stock. It's over. It's not. It's like buying anything, right? You bought a car, it's a fucking lemon. You're going to keep driving it even though it's broke down all the time? No. Get rid of that fucking car. Go get a new car. Same scenario with stocks. You know, really don't get emotionally invested in any of it. It's literally paper that you're trading and hoping that it goes up in value. It's not even true money. Like, the points you see there don't leave your emotions at the table. And it's hard to say that because it's your money. But if you actively pay attention to what's going on in the market, you can do a lot better than the average person because they're paying somebody else to do exactly what they could do themselves.
Right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you, everybody, for listening. If we've taken away anything, it's important to have. It's important to leave your emotions at the table, ladies and gentlemen, especially as you go through your weekend and going in through the next work week. So hopefully everything goes well for you. So I want to thank Steve for calling in and helping out the conversation. Dave, do you have anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah. Thank you for listening. I hope that you guys stay with us on this path and, you know, get to share some of our successes and failures with us as we go.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for David, I'm Bo signing off. Have a great weekend. Peace.
Peace.